Welcome to the Shoot Tale podcast. If you don't know me, my name is Martin Depict. I'm a photographer and videographer based in Los Angeles. And today I'm going to be spilling some tea. Something that I never thought I would actually say. But I'm going to tell you guys the story of the worst situation that I've ever had with a client. This is a very well-known person, so I probably won't be saying any names. And this is also the first time that I've told this story. It's been over 3 years since this situation happened. And I think I finally feel comfortable enough to tell this story. Just because I think I've come away from this with a lot of things that I've learned from this situation. So where it starts is that I've worked with this model for a very long time, probably 5 years before this issue even came up. And every time we got together, we always shot really amazing stuff. Nothing was ever really planned. We would sort of loosely plan stuff. And it's sort of my favorite way of shooting. Just loosely planning stuff hey, we're going to go shoot here in these outfits. This is the idea for makeup. It's sort of having inspiration and then just collaborating. Both of us sort of going into a situation, hoping and wanting for the best outcome. And that's my favorite way of working with someone. It's always been the most creative. People are not closed off to any ideas. It's always been a really, really fun way for me to sort of just get creativity out. This person ended up working with a really huge brand to sort of develop a clothing line for them. And I was brought on to shoot that clothing line. Now, I will say that I don't think I was ever this brand's top choice for a photographer. Usually for this kind of stuff, e-com and lifestyle stuff, brands like to use photographers that they've worked with directly and have tested and all this stuff. I was sort of brought on in as a request from the model, which is great. And I think that because of that, I've always tried to deliver and do my best. Now, granted, I do think I was brought on because there was a trust that I had with this person. And that trust being that she didn't want the brand to see any photos without her approval. So nothing that was unedited, because there was always this fear of photos being leaked or anything like that, probably, just things of that nature. So I had her back when it came to that kind of stuff, and just making sure that nothing was ever put out without her consent. Over the course of doing these shoots, which I think we did 2 years, almost 2 years worth of shoots with the brand, there was definitely some shoots that could have gone better, and then there was definitely shoots that went really great. The last shoot that went really great was a situation where the brand came to me directly and said, hey, this is how much money we have for a location. Could you get what we need done in one day and shoot all this stuff? They sent me over a shot list and everything. And I looked everything over and I said, cool, I definitely think we can get it done in one day. I'll try to find a location for your budget. I was always very accommodating when it came to this kind of stuff. I always wanted to, keep my side of the street clean and do my best. So that shoot specifically, I was sent the product directly. I communicated with the brand and I let them know hey, this is everything that I received. They let me know that there was one outfit missing, which we ended up working it out in post because we had the same outfit just in a different color. So in post, I just ended up photoshopping it the color that they needed it to be for them to use it on their website. And for the location, it was a very small location. So I was able to bring lights and get what we needed. And obviously it was still rushed. I always felt we can always do better with these types of shoots if we had more time. I thought that, the model thought that, the brand was the only one hesitant because they weren't sure if they wanted to pay for it, which was understandable. The next shoot after that, they gave us the freedom to do a 2-day shoot. And it was for a collection that they were going to release during the winter. So we were let's get a spot in Big Bear and shoot it up there. And, if we have 2 days, we'll be able to try to walk around in the woods, shoot at different locations. So that's what we had planned for. Again, I got sent all the outfits. I communicated with the brand. They told me, hey, you have everything. We're not missing anything this time. Cool. Everything was good. I ended up going up to the location a day early with Luna. The second day, the model didn't show up. And it was stressful because we had fought for so long to try to get the brand to give us multiple days of shooting. And finally, when we get the opportunity to do a 2-day shoot, this is what happens. It sucked. And during this time, this person was like dating this big celebrity who actually came to the place, and I was actually a fan of. And it was actually really embarrassing to be put in a position to where like I have to I couldn't do my best in front of someone that I sort of like looked up to creatively. So I think they get there very late the first day. So we had already lost sunlight. There was no point in shooting. You know, all the photos that we were meant to shoot were supposed to be during the day. So they got there. We decided, hey, let's just try to shoot everything on the last day. And we did. And again, it was just one of those situations where I felt like I could have done better. I didn't have time to set up the lights. I sort of just shot everything with like natural lighting. And, you know, I did the best that I could. We shoot everything. You know, I am not necessarily super happy with the images, but they got the job done. You know, the brand obviously wasn't happy. And I felt like a lot of it was on me. And I think that from the outside looking in, I never told the brand that the model didn't show up the first day. You know, the only people who knew were her management and me and Luna. And I think like because of that, I felt like it just made me look very bad to this brand. And it sucked. It sucked to be in this position to where I felt like, hey, I am being the one that's being negatively judged from this because she's just a model and creatively she didn't, you know, she's not taking the photos. She's just paid to show up and be there. And because I had her back, I'm not going to tell the brand, hey, she didn't show up. And I guess I'll mention this now. The brand would pay the model and then the model would pay me. So it was in my best interest to always make sure that I had her back. I think 2 or 3 months later, another shoot comes up, right? And for some reason, the only day that I was told that they were available to shoot was the Monday after Coachella. Now, I've talked about this before. I go to Coachella every year. So we ended up leaving Sunday night that year. So I ended up leaving Sunday night, drove back home. You know, we get back home at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I go to sleep, wake up, pack my car with all the gear. I go to the location that I rented, by the way. For all these locations, I always paid for the locations and then I was reimbursed. So I paid for the location, showed up to the location, set up all the lighting, everything cool. Everything was ready. She was also at Coachella. And she didn't show up again till I think it was probably like 2 p.m. And sunlight, at this point we only had probably like 4.5 hours of sunlight. And for this collection, it was like a summer type collection. So it was a lot of bikinis, a lot of, you know, outdoor stuff. So we needed the sun for it. And for her to show up late and then still have to sit in makeup and everything, we probably only got like maybe 3.5 hours of like usable light to shoot. And again, it put me in a position where I felt I couldn't do my best. And still, I tried my hardest to do what I could. But I think at that shoot, I think it was starting to show that this is going to affect me in like a much more negative way because again, the brand never knew that she showed up late. I felt like I was always the one to take like the brunt of this, like, and I'm not sure if they ever said like, oh, well, it's the photographer's fault that he didn't do a good enough job or he didn't take good enough photos and blah, 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 and this and that. I don't know if that was ever said. I always did my best and she approved the photos that I edited. I sent it off to the brand. The brand ended up using them. And that shoot I ended up getting emails back from the brand saying she's wearing the bottoms wrong, meaning that she was wearing the bottoms backwards because she wanted her butt to look bigger. And again, I had talked to her, and we talked on the phone, and she had told me, well, it's my brand, that's what I want, that's how I want to wear them, and I think like they should still be able to use them. That's what I ended up emailing them. I ended up emailing them like, hey, she feels like that this is the way that best represents her, and that's how she wanted to wear them. So she thinks that that's how the images should be displayed. So I had to go through all the photos and edit the tag that was meant to be on the back of the bottoms, and edited them out the front, and then sort of replace it on the back. And yeah, so again, that was another situation where like I was put in a really fucked up position. The next two shoots were the last. The second to last shoot was a shoot that we did at a school. The brand was the one that said like, hey, this is a back to school collection. It'd be great if you guys can find a school to shoot at. And, I found a school. It was like a high school that we were able to shoot at during the summer. They did say that some parts of the school were open to the public. So like, we had to like work around certain things and certain limitations. Also, we didn't have like a home base. Actually, no, we did have a home base. Our home base was like a gym office, like a coach's office that we would have to go back and change each time. Again, I think by this point, these last two shoots, I wasn't sent the clothes directly. The clothes were sent to the model and her team. So I didn't know if we were missing anything. I didn't know if there was anything on the shot list that was missing. None of the clothes came steamed. None of it was prepared and ready. Like I had to edit out all these wrinkles, or at least I tried my best to edit out all the wrinkles. And again, it sucked. It sucked to be put in a position to where like I felt like I was being set up to fail. And, for so many things to be out of my control and then still have this person's back was it was basically just me having my faith that she would also have my back. So the last two shoots were pretty close together. So we did that shoot, and then we did another shoot the month after, about a month and a half after. Now, going into the second shoot, I hadn't been paid for the first shoot yet, for the shoot at the school. So, I think I received partial payment for the shoot at the school, but not the whole thing. And, I guess like by this point, I was already sort of like upset at the fact that like I was already upset, and I had talked to Luna about all this stuff and vented to her and said like, this is really going to be something that like fucks with my career if it ends up to continue to go this way. And so again, this last shoot was supposed to be a big shoot. We got a location out in Joshua Tree, again, which I paid for. I ended up going out there the night before the first day of shooting. This was a 2-day shoot. I went out there the night before the first day of shooting, and Luna and I stayed there. I'm worried. I'm stressed because I don't have any of the clothing. And, the last time that this happened and we're this far away from LA, she showed up late. And surprise, surprise, on the first day, she showed up late. She didn't get there till I think, again, like 3 or 4 o'clock. At this point, I think like Luna's visibly upset at this situation. Luna had assisted me on past shoots with this person, but at this point, I had told Luna, I was like, you know what, like let's just go hang out in the room, and I'll shoot everything. Don't worry about it. And I think the model sort of got like a weird feeling like, hey, is everything okay? Is she mad? Are you guys fighting? And I was just kind of like, no, she's okay. She's just not feeling well. But like, it was just, I don't think this person knew. I don't think this model knew how bad she was making me look professionally. And I think to that, actually, before I get to that, I'll say that. I'll say my piece at the end. So the first day, I get the box that all the clothing is in. Again, none of it's steamed. The box was ripped in transport, whether it was ripped while it was shipped to her or it was just like thrown in the back of her car and like it got dirty in the car, but like some of the pieces in the box were dirty. And again, it just created a lot of extra work for me to where like she would put them on. It was a lot of wrinkles. It was just, again, set up for failure. And, at this point, we shot the first day. I'm not feeling good about it. Woke up the next day. She didn't want to start till like 3 o'clock because it was hot. Obviously, it's hot in Joshua Tree during the summer. So, I was like, okay, whatever. At this point, I'm just kind of like, I'm just rolling with the punches at this point. There's nothing that I can do. So we wait until it gets a little cooler and then we shoot the rest of the stuff. All of it is rushed. None of it is steamed. All of it looks like shit. And it just, I just knew that was like the last shoot. I ended up not getting paid half of the school shoot and none of the Joshua Tree shoot. But I still did all the work. I still edited all the photos. I still went through the whole process of getting her approval on the edits and all that stuff and like sending it to the brand. And it sucked not to get paid for that, especially when it was like my money that was being put up for the locations. And like, especially for when you rent out a school, you have to get like production insurance. So I had to get insurance, which was an additional fee on top of the location fee. So like, it was crazy. And then you had to have like someone there, like a location manager for some of these places. So like that was another fee that I had to pay for the school, but it's whatever. So I came away from that whole situation feeling like as much as I had this person's back, she didn't have mine. I felt like I was made to be the bad guy a lot of the time. I don't believe the brand even knows that the situations that were really happening. I think that all they saw were the shitty photos. And the last photos that I took at Joshua Tree, there was no hiding it. Like, the photos were just not good. It was rushed. None of the clothes was steamed. Some of it was dirty and over edited because I needed to edit out the wrinkles. It was just bad. It was not like a good representation of the clothing. And I had worked in e-com for years before this. So like, I went to FITM for graphic design. As I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before, but I went to a fashion school to study graphic design. And then my first internships was at a clothing company. So I knew how important it was to properly display the clothes that you're trying to sell. I worked in e-com. I've worked at small fashion companies doing e-com. I worked at larger fashion companies, editing ads for that company. There was a lot of time that I spent working on clothes. And so when I got this opportunity to work with clothes again, I knew that there was a bar and I wanted to come up to that standard. And when I was sort of like set up for failure and not given the opportunity to do my best, it sucked. And it really fucked with my confidence because as much as I thought I could have done better, I should have done this differently, I should have done that differently, the one thing that I for sure should have done is spoke up. I should have told her. I should have said, hey, I feel like I'm being judged on work that's not my best because of things that are out of my control, because of how she was moving, basically. of things that she didn't necessarily care about, like showing up with the clothes not steamed, or not knowing whether we had all the products or not, or not showing up on time, all that stuff. Like, knowing that we wouldn't sort of like snitch on her, or make her look bad to the brand, that ended up looking bad on me, because if she wasn't the one that looked bad, it was me and my work that looked bad. I'm telling this story now because last week I uploaded a video about how ChatGPT's new Image 2.0 is so good at creating product photography that it's I think it's going to put a lot of commercial photographers out of work. And as lucky as I am to still have work, I do feel this pressure that I'm being backed up against the wall a little bit. And so it's time for me to go back out there and look for new clients and, start hunting again for work. I may not need it, but I'd rather have more work than to have no work at all. I haven't been on the hunt for new clients in like years now. I've worked for the same clients for so long that there is this sense of like comfort. And the one thing that sort of scares me is that I run into another client like this person that has an ego that can't necessarily be controlled or told what to do, because she feels that everyone should sort of like conform to her. And that is scary. And I don't ever want to work with someone like that again, because I know what I'm capable of, and I know that I can create really fucking dope stuff if I work with someone that also wants to create really fucking dope stuff. In a lot of sense, the person who is in front of my camera is a collaborator of mine. Now, they could definitely be a client, and they could be paying me to take photos of them, but I'm not a magician. I need to work with you in the sense of making sure that we can come up with like the best image possible to make sure that you are set up for success, to sell whatever it is that you're selling, to promote whatever it is you're promoting. And the best clients out there are the ones that know that, are the collaborators, or the people, the models, the artists, the ones out there that know if I devote some time to this, I will get something good out of it that I will be proud of. But not only that, me as a photographer, I will be proud to be able to shoot it, to be able to be a part of it. I know that they can go to anyone. If they already have a vision and they have all the resources available to them to where they can get any location that they want, they can have access to the best wardrobe, the best makeup, all this stuff. The photographer is a very small piece of that. I'm very confident in my skills as a photographer. I feel like if I'm given enough time and I have the right equipment and I'm given the correct direction by a brand, I can give them what they want. And not only a brand, an artist, a person, a model, I can give them what they want. That's how confident I am in my skills, that like if they have an idea, I can help bring it to life. Could I shoot something great without inspiration, with just sort of collaborating with someone and vibing off of them? 100% yes. But that involves one other person to give me their best. If I'm not given the best by the person in front of my lens, I'm not going to be able to give them the best of me, because I'm only a reflection of what they're giving me. As I'm sort of hunting for these new clients, as I'm going out there for the first time in a long time, really, to like try to meet new people and be social, which I haven't been in a very long time. I think that, it's also part of the reason why I'm doing this, is because there's this like level of confidence that I want to gain speaking and like getting my point across. And also like not being afraid to look stupid. Cause like I do feel like when I'm in social settings, there's always this sense of like overthinking what I say or feeling like I'm saying too much, or sometimes not feeling like I'm not saying enough. Knowing what I know now and learning from the past mistakes that I have gone through and working with the clients that I've worked with, I think the one thing that I need to make clear moving forward is what I need to make sure that I'm able to do a good job for them. If the deliverables are, hey, I need 100 and something photos edited of this thing, great. I'm going to make it very clear to them. I need this by this date, and I need this much time. If I don't get that, I'm not able to deliver the best possible outcome. With this specific situation, with the story that I told, it was like something like just under 10K that I got left holding for locations, for editing, because I had help with I had editors help me editing out the wrinkles and stuff of the clothes. There was a lot that I ended up like holding that I was like hoping to get reimbursed for and to actually like come out with like some sort of profit. And the fact that I got put in that situation where I had to like hold this bag for someone who didn't respect the process, that didn't respect me or respect herself for that matter, to like put enough time into how she looks or how she comes off. It's disappointing. And I don't know. I maybe there's a part of me that was like, maybe I should have spoke up earlier. And like what's crazy about this whole situation too is that like I like went through all our text messages, through all the emails. I like screenshotted all this stuff. I like was talking to a lawyer, and I was thinking about, you know, taking her to court for the money that she owed me. And before I did, I like, because it's a very serious situation when you like take someone to court. I talked to one of her friends, and this person is a mutual friend of ours. So I talked to her and I let her know like, hey, this is what happened. This is how much she owes me. Like, I'm thinking about taking her to court. And she told me, she's like, hey, I'm not going to stop you. But what she did say was, just know that once you do that, you're going to be known as a photographer that sues people. Which was a very good fucking point. Because people are always going to take the side of the person that's more popular. And there's two sides to every story, right? Like, this is my side of the story. And even then, I'm being very vague and not giving like everything, giving you guys all the information, because I want it to be intentionally vague. I don't know what her side of the story is. I don't know if I still don't know if the brand knows that she was late. I don't know that if the brand knows that it was her fault why the photos look like shit. For all I know, I was the one that made it to look bad. I never worked with that brand again. You know, I never worked with her again after this situation. There was a lot of things that happened that I feel made me look bad professionally, and it sucked. And so like, I think like legally you have like 3 years to sue for like back charges. And it's now been over that time, and I'm not going to sue or go after this person for money, but it sucked. It sucks being in this position. And like I said, again, I took a big hit to my confidence, knowing that I could have done my best, but wasn't given the opportunity to, knowing that I held back things that I wanted to say because I felt like I was having her back. I felt like I was doing her a favor by not putting her on blast and doing all this stuff. And still, maybe I'm even protecting her a little bit now by doing this. The people that I work with now, the clients that I have now, are the type of people that also have my back, that will not only pay me, but will pay me on time. Not only show up on time, or if they're late, they'll give me the extra time that I need to make sure that I can get what I need for them. Because as sort of like an independent contractor, and not only that, but as a creative, I feel like I've repeated myself so many times, but we can only get the job done if we're given everything that we need to get the job done. And I'm not talking about gear. I'm not talking about, cameras and lenses and shit. I'm talking about the time that we need from the other people involved in a project. If you've ever been part of a big crew and you fuck up, there's this sense of like embarrassment. There's this sense of like, oh, fuck, like shit, like I can't believe I did that. I'm wasting all these people's time because of this, and that's how I felt about this situation. But I shouldn't have felt that way. I was only doing what I could do with what I had, and the person that I wanted to point the finger to, I couldn't, because that was the person that was paying me. I think since then, the people that I work with, even like they I think I annoy them sometimes, because like I'm constantly on them, like, hey, let's go. We have to shoot. We have to get this done. Like, we need to get at least 10 or 15 looks done today. Like, let's go. I'm always rushing them and stuff. And like, as annoying as I am, they've told me that they appreciate it. And I think that in the long run, I'm not only creating stuff that I'm proud of, but I'm also creating stuff that they can be proud of, and they can look back and say that we did our best. Looking back to the images or the videos that we took and said, we fucking did that. That was the best fucking thing. That was the best outcome that we could have gotten, with the time, the money, and the devotion. If there's anything that you guys could take away from this, is that know your worth, and I'm not talking about like charge a certain amount or whatever it is. Like, I'm talking about don't let anyone affect what you're capable of. And a way for you to ensure that that never happens is for you to speak up. You need to let people know, this is what I need. This is the time I need. This is the location I need. This is the lighting I need. And if you don't have any of that stuff, you're not able to give them the best possible outcome. Could you still give them an outcome? Yes, 100%. And I know that no production is ever perfect. I've been doing this for 15 plus years now. I know that something is always off. But what makes you a great photographer or creative director or videographer is that you can be quick on your feet. And so if you're not the one fixing it, make sure that there's someone on that team that could fix it. I've seen miracles happen on sets. Literally. Where like, if something breaks, it gets fixed, and you don't even know that it was broken in the first place. And that's the type of crew, and that's the type of team that you want around you, is that like, everyone's working together for the best possible outcome. So yeah, that's how I'm going to end this. Thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you guys next week. But until then, keep shooting. Peace.